Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 9th, 2023, the gentleman from New York, Mr. D'Esposito, is recognized for 60 minutes as a designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and to submit extraneous materials on the subject of this special order.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to commemorate the life and honor the service of a murdered New York City police officer, Jonathan Diller. I rise today also to honor his wife, Stephanie, and his 1-year-old son, Ryan. They both will spend the rest of their lives reeling from the loss of a beloved husband and father in a way that none of us can fully understand. Jonathan Diller's death is a national tragedy. It's an indescribable loss, not only for his family, for Long Island, for the great state of New York, but for the United States of America and law enforcement in every corner of this globe. Horrifically, Officer Diller's death is not the only death endured by the NYPD in recent memory. Mr. Speaker, I rise today as well to honor the lives and service of Anastasios Tsakos, Jason Rivera, Wilbert Mora, Adid Fayez. We pray for these slain NYPD heroes and their families, and we remind those retired and those serving here in the House of Representatives that we will always stand with the men and women of law enforcement. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor as well the some 374 officers slain in the line of duty since President Biden began to steadily chip away at law and order in this country since 2021. President Biden and allied politicians in governors' mansions, district attorneys' offices, and right here in the House of Representatives may pay lip service to these officers and their families, but their votes, their rhetoric, their spewing of hatred tell a very different story. You see, Mr. Speaker, there is a reason why Governor Hochul's presence was universally rebuked by those, including myself, in attendance at now Detective First Grade Diller's wake. The reason, Mr. Speaker? Governor Hochul and far-left lawmakers have, at every single turn, prioritized equity over the lives of men and women who wear the uniform. They have pursued disastrous pro-criminal policies when they could have and should have pursued public safety. As a result, brave public servants and innocent Americans are paying the price in blood. And we have, thankfully, across this country, many organizations who support men and women in blue in some of our worst times. And some of them are here with us today. I want to thank Project Thank a Cop for being here and always supporting men and women in blue. See, public safety is not rocket science. So when we witness record assaults and attacks against law enforcement officers, we begin to look at those in power in these places and wonder, why are they choosing to allow this to happen? When Americans and New Yorkers watch videos of illegal migrants brutally beating NYPD officers in Times Square, we begin to look at those in power and wonder why they choose to allow these people to be here in the first place. Just minutes ago, the New York Post issued another article. It's titled, "Migrant Repeat Offenders Viciously Attack Cops During Bust for Ransacking a New York City Target." Whether it's cashless bail or open borders, the common denominator among these stories is radical, progressive policy. And the American people know, see, and suffer this reality. You see, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues I shouldn't say all of them, but some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are no doubt aware that the animal who shot Officer Diller had 21 prior arrests. 21 prior arrests for charges ranging from drug convictions to assault to hate crimes. When someone like Detective Diller's killer can commit heinous acts of violence, be apprehended, and then let out on the street the same day, we have a problem. Mr. Speaker, that problem lies not with the police, not with the men and women of law enforcement, not with the men and women who put on that shield and that gun belt every day. Mr. Speaker, it lies with elected officials who have no regard for public safety. Time and time again, those elected officials have chosen to preserve this revolving door of criminality through their explicit embrace of policies like cashless bail and open borders. The American people know that it does not need to be this way, that it was not this way until very recently, until those in power changed course. Mr. Speaker, nightmares like those of Officer Diller will continue to occupy our headlines and our hearts. And you see, in places like New York, and you're going to hear from other members from the great state of New York tonight, not only is our state legislature and our governor all run by Democrats, not only are they saying that cashless bail is working, that criminal justice reform is working, they are doubling down and saying that it is better for the city and the state of New York. Mr. Speaker, I plead with my colleagues in all branches of government to come to their senses. I humbly ask that they listen to law enforcement experts. Give them the tools they need. Do not take the handcuffs from their gun belt that they're supposed to be utilizing against criminals and use it on them. Let them do their jobs. I ask that they change course, that they understand in their reckless pursuit of equity and social justice, they are hurting those trying to protect. In my years as an NYPD detective, I saw enough death and suffering. We don't need to see more. And Mr. Speaker, that morning just a week ago, when Stephanie Diller gave the eulogy of her hero husband, she mentioned the funerals of police officer Mora and Rivera and referenced the speakers who said that we needed change. And she asked a simple question to those elected officials that were in that church in Massapequa, and of course, to the thousands upon thousands in the streets and the thousands listening at home. And she asked a simple question: what has changed? And the answer in places like New York, that's run by Democrats, the answer is nothing. Nothing has changed in our pursuit of justice. The only thing that has changed is people's lives have become more dangerous. Our streets have become more dangerous. We don't need to see more death and suffering. We don't need to see more nightmares like first-grade detective Diller. Mr. Speaker, I now yield 5 minutes to my colleague from New York, Congresswoman Malliotakis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues.